All right. TikTok's live. YouTube is live. Record button is pressed.
All right. How do I sound? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see us on TikTok.
Mm. Yep, we're live. Yep, Truck World, Rocky's on there. So we will get the show started here in about 3 minutes. Sean is
I do not
watching.
see us live on TikTok.
We are. Mm.
There we are. Now we are. All right.
Remember to use that mute button. Yeah, like that.
All right. Got it. Okay.
TikTok's done a new thing. They've updated the software. You know, I don't use a camera plugged up to that computer. The video and audio comes through the thing. Well, it wants to see a camera source. So I had to plug a camera in to the Windows machine that's staring at the back of my monitor and then is hidden behind our other video because it's like, you don't have a camera source. I'm like, well, TikTok, I do have a camera source. It's just not the way you think I would.
I'm glad you have to deal with that Windows machine. I'd have to throw it out the window.
Oh.
What does it cost to do a diesel force cleaning?
$18.50
Plus
plus an oil change.
Plus an oil change. Plus we recommend that you clean the DPF filters. And we can work you in. Just go on our website and set yourself an appointment. We get to you first thing in the morning, right, Chris?
Yeah. No.
No. Okay.
We've got.
When they go on there, can they see the next available appointment? Are they?
They can.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
right. We once we get the show started here in about a minute, we have some updates and developments to tell y'all about.
Yeah, we do.
Sean says also no eating Doritos in front of the mic.
I don't have Doritos. I don't eat Doritos anyway. Sean, is he our audio guy now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Sean.
Phil,
We have a remote tuner to our podcast now.
Yeah.
He lives just not a ways from me.
All right. It is 8:00. Good evening, lunatics. Welcome to the podcast. It's Friday, August 23rd, 2024. We're back with you for another show. And wow. So we had last night at 8:00, we had the premiere of our first weekly shop video. And I'm happy to report that Kyle and I have been doing a good job collecting the video. So I will have those posted for you every Thursday night. So we finished off, we record everything up through Wednesday, and then I put it together and post it Thursday. So what we start doing on Thursday and Friday starts getting collected to go on to the next week's video. So yesterday we were up at the shop and just kind of going about our business, gathering parts and kind of come up with a plan. And Chris Dolan says, "Hey, y'all come with me." And so we follow him over to the old
Chris Dolan is the owner of Cams,
right.
who we cooperate with in our shop space.
So Chris says, "Come over here with us," and he takes us over to the old Yellow Freight building where Yellow Freight used to be, and on the end of that building are three bays, three big bays, and he decided to add that to his lease, and so now Kyle and I have spent yesterday and all day today cleaning and washing and sweeping and building shelves, and I'll put it on the screen here for YouTube, but this is what it looks like. We got three bays we're going to share with Cams, and we got a nice big parking lot. So we are working diligently to get this place cleaned up because it's been empty for probably, I think, almost a year, and it was a mess. So we've been in there sweeping and cleaning and building shelves and all that kind of stuff. So
How
we're going
many
to start
parking
tomorrow.
spaces do you think we added, Chris?
Huh?
How many parking spaces do you think we added?
I believe there, if I heard correctly today, I believe there are 30 truck
Wow,
spaces
nice.
there. So we are going to get moved into there. We're going to start in the morning. Tomorrow morning, we're going to start moving trucks and tools over there so that we can commence to working because we have got a bunch of work to do to get ready for the show. But we're very excited because basically in the building that we moved into in January, there are 5 bays, and the bay that we have been in is just big enough we can just get 2 bobtails in there, and um, they're about 8 inches apart and just enough to close the door. And so we are cramped into this little space, and that space really needs to be used as a parts room. So we're going to vacate there and move over to the new building, and it's just going to open it up for us and make it really nice for us to do the alignments, and everything's paved, and um, we'll be sharing the space, but we're going to have, even sharing it, we're still going to have double or triple what we had before. So Kyle and I are very excited about this. This was a
Very nice.
development we didn't see coming. So very appreciative to Chris and Margie for making that happen for us. So we're going to do everything we can to make them lots of money too. So everybody remember that CAMS is now a Landstar 120 inspection station. We're doing the MD alignments there. You can come by. We had a guy come by today. Let me go ahead and throw this up on the screen. We had a guy today come in and buy some Flashpoint. So we're stocking distributors for Pittsburgh Power, Max Mileage Catalyst, OPS, and Flashpoint. We keep it there in the shop. So if you are in need when you're coming through Charleston, all you got to do is go onto the website, blueribbonlogistics.com, pay for it, and you can swing right in there and pick it up. So,
We've got 30 parking spots now.
yeah,
You can actually park and come in.
yeah, this is going to be a game changer for our shop. So we're very, very, very happy to have this. Let's see what's been going on in the world of trucking this week. There must be, because I noticed I had some struggles this week booking some loads, and I've seen a whole lot more hate and discontent in the last couple of days than is normal. There's like this base level of aggravation, and but there was something off in the market this week. It was not normal. Now the first part of next week's looking good. Everybody's got some really nice loads booked, but boy, this week was just. And we had stupid stuff happening. Had a guy went to a shipper, and apparently nobody on the premises knows how to load a truck. because he started out 6,000 pounds over on the drives, and they reworked it and they made him 10,000 pounds over on the trailer. And I'm like, how in the hell? I mean, that takes talent, So I look up, because every time they use the CatScale app, it comes to our truck email. And I'm like, CatScale, CatScale, CatScale. I'm like, we've spent more on CatScales than we did in fuel. What the hell is going on here? But God, what a cluster. So that one day load turned into like 4. It's been one of those weeks, I guess. So we will do the financial report tonight. I did it Wednesday night on TikTok. I do that every Wednesday night about 9:00, 8:30 or 9:00. I don't have a an appointment, but generally 8:30, 9:00 Wednesday nights on TikTok live. You can come in and see the financial report. We'll go through those numbers for you from last week, and they were pretty healthy last week. Everybody did really well. All the trucks did pretty. Oh, you know what? I just noticed. You're right. I've got the wrong one up. I'm gonna have to fix that. So let me just do some on the fly editing here, because is that it? Nope, that is not it. Okay. All right. Why don't you find something to talk about here for a minute so I can find my stuff I'm looking for?
Well, I wasn't prepared, so I don't really have anything in mind, but I can look at some comments here. Start first one in. Let's see here.
There we go.
Best truck for cheap. Well, I don't know how to answer that for sure. If you mean the best truck to get started in without spending a lot of money, I guess I can interpret that. We think our belief is a 99 to 2007 Century or Columbia with a Detroit Series 60 engine. That truck should cost you somewhere around $15,000, which is cheap compared to a new truck, which is $200,000. And it's not too terribly expensive to work on. Parts are not all that expensive, easy to get. And you can probably get that on the road, hauling freight, safe, reliable, for probably around $30,000-$40,000 all in. That would be our recommendation to answer that question. Best truck for cheap.
So I just thought of something from yesterday that we can
All
talk
right.
about.
All right. Thank you.
Truck leases. Um, you know,
Those are cheap.
as someone who operates trucks, regardless of our program, there is a competitive market for drivers. But as a truck operator, I would love, how much I would love for me to say, hey, driver, come over here and drive my truck. All right, great. What are you going to pay me? Nothing. I'm not going to pay you a penny, not a dime. Man, that's a great deal. I think I'm going to do that, because that's effectively. We talked with a guy yesterday. We talked about the lease. Larry has a copy of it, by the way. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting material comes out of that. But you got people signing up for these lease programs and making $0. They're driving a truck for free,
or in some cases for negative money.
right? I, I mean, look, I've done it. I did a lease. Well, I did one at Prime, like back in '99, when it was, that was the lease that got that got Prime in all kind of trouble. But I did a lease purchase through Anderson Trucking Service, and I did so much research into that before I did it, and I went into it and I worked like an animal, and I did make money. I would never do it again, and I would never recommend anyone do it. But these carrier lease purchase programs should be illegal. I mean, I'm not a guy for, you know, making things illegal, but that's how bad they are. They're absolute theft, indentured servitude, slavery, but yet people keep signing up for these things. And of course I can't wait. There'll be one that comes along in to tell me what a great deal it is. The problem is I have a calculator and I'm not afraid to use it. Now it would
Well,
be
and
one thing.
the biggest tip off is that if it's such a good idea, why is it that they don't want you to show it to anybody? Anybody.
Mhm.
They only want you to look at it and sign it because you're the only one that's desperate enough at this point in time and stupid enough to sign it. Because anybody else you show it to is going to look at you and go, "Why in the world would you do this?" Especially an attorney or an accountant or somebody that's got any sense. So that should be enough right there to make you ask the question why. Why is if it's such a great deal, why is it that I cannot show this to anybody and take this out of this room?
And it would be one thing if if I could run into some of these lease guys that actually knew the numbers. Um, okay, well, what's your fuel cost? What's your maintenance cost? How does your escrows work? Um, but very very rarely do they ever know what the actual numbers are.
Well, sometimes it's better if they don't know.
Well, that's true. Just
So
close your eyes very very tightly, and
again, they're not
pretend.
going to be told what those numbers are. They're going to have to figure them out. And even then, they don't want to really see that because they remind themselves how stupid of an idea it was to do this. So let's just not pay attention to it, and maybe it'll go away.
Yeah,
But you're
and
right. We talk to people that are in these lease purchases, and we try to get them start thinking about, you know, the options of maybe you should think about doing something differently, and they have no clue. They have no idea they're not making any money. They have no idea they're losing money. They have no idea the responsibilities that they have taken on and the risks they've taken on and how few options they truly have. Because all this time in their mind, they're thinking they can walk away. And that's usually not one of the options that are available to them.
mhm.
As badly as they want to argue that it is and defend it that it is, it's just not there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
We will dissect this lease that we got just the other day, and we will talk about all I haven't gone through it yet, but just talking to the driver candidate for us makes me kind of salivating at getting into it because it's going to be a good one, I think. And
well,
I'm being
and
facetious when I say good one.
yeah, and there's some I need to talk to him too because I want to get all of his settlements and put it into profit gauges, and I want to see what that looks like.
That'll
That
be
would
an
be
opening. That'll be an opening for him.
yeah, yeah. Um,
What does red mean, Chris? And when you're dealing with numbers,
yeah, right. Red
why is
is
that
bad.
number red?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Face shutter. I bet if you showed folks the math formulas to get the numbers, they'd understand you guys. Well, I mean, we certainly try, and that's why we started doing these financial reports. A lot of times the vocabulary gets in the way because different people call different things. We have terms like line haul and accessorials, and so we have our language, but another carrier calls it something else. And but it basically comes down to, I mean, there's income that can be split into different things. There's insurance, there's fuel, there's driver pay. Um, it's
Listen.
pretty simple.
Math formulas are very, very simple when you're doing this. Okay, it's called addition and subtraction. Those are the two formulas that you have to know to be able to figure out what your numbers are. It doesn't require algebra. It doesn't require trigonometry or college level calculus. It requires third grade arithmetic. That's all it requires. The problem is not the formula. The problem is they don't know the numbers. They don't have the numbers themselves, much less the formula to analyze them with.
Oh, Juan Jesus Munoz on TikTok says, "Hey, Mr. Larry, this question might sound stupid, but can trucking make you a millionaire, and are you one?"
Well, the answer to that is yes. I'm going to refrain from saying whether I am one or not because that's kind of personal. But I made $1 million in trucking in 4.5 years. I'll just put it that way. Okay. So, and I left my accountant. I had an appointment with my accountant today, and she was pretty impressed with our numbers. Even though we weren't happy with our numbers this year, she was pretty impressed with them. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't like to toot my own horn, but
Well, you said something to me one time that made a lot of sense, and I never thought of, because you had been in the automotive industry, you'd had the dry cleaning business, you'd had the photography business, and then you got into trucking, and you said trucking was the easiest money you'd ever made
and that's true.
because all you had to do was deliver the freight, and you got paid. You didn't have Yellow Pages ads, you didn't have a marketing budget, you didn't have, um
Collections.
yeah,
I
you
didn't have to. I didn't have to go invoice. I didn't have to go advertise for help for money. I
mhm,
mean, for business. I mean, business is on the load board. You just go get it. And I didn't have product to deal with. I mean, this is a very, very easy business to do. You pick a load, you put it in the back of the truck, you deliver it, you back up, you hit a button, you get paid. I mean, it's the simplest business I've ever known of. You don't have a wave of little collections and stuff what following you around that you have to deal with. It's a very, very simple business, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to do this. Honestly, it's hard work, but it's not.
mhm,
It's. I mean, it's it. I mean, look, you go out and you drive a truck. You sit in a truck. You sit in the seat all day in an air conditioned truck with music playing and the windows up. I've done a lot harder shit than this. Okay. Um,
yeah,
it is the easiest thing I've ever done to make this kind of money. No question about it. Um,
and unlike a lot of businesses, uh, you excuse me, I'm trying not to sneeze. Whew. Oh my goodness. Um, you if you're a single truck owner operator, I mean, you have to rely on other people to do their jobs, but they're not there with you, right? You know, you had the dry cleaners, you had employees that had to show up. Um, you had when in trucking, you can largely rely on yourself. You still have some problems that you have to solve, but you
as a
you just
single truck operator, you do not have to have employees typically. And
right.
when I when we started doing this program, I had one of my next door neighbor, good guy, had been a next door neighbor for a long time. I had given him a bullet, and I told him, I said, if I ever do anything else again that requires employees, you are under my direction to use this and shoot me in the head, okay? And he reminds me every day that I have employees in the trucking business, but um, fortunately,
Um,
I don't let him meet Chris, or he'd pull the bullet out and shoot me immediately. So,
right, right. Um, OJ on TikTok says, "How many trucks to make $1 million?" Well,
that's
OJ,
a hard question to answer. I mean, we have made. I mean, right now we what have we averaged this year, Chris? Probably 7 or 8. You think?
probably, yeah, probably 7.
We have, without getting into the numbers too intimately, we made $1.6 million this year in gross revenue. We have retained $360,000 of that with about 7 trucks running in this market.
Mhm.
So to make $1 million, you would probably have to have 3 of those, three times those all year. But you got to remember, we make
Yeah,
a very, very small margin on these trucks because we pay the drivers the majority of the money. The most money we make here goes to the driver. Then we also have to make sure that the truck operations are paid for, and then we also split the money with the truck owner. They're the ones that have the investment. So we have a very unique business model here. If I owned all the trucks, I didn't have truck owners. we would be making more money than we are. Maybe, maybe not. But it just depends. I mean, again, it's a math problem. You look and we know that we can take a truck with a driver and the truck, and we know that truck can make up between 150 200 grand a year. We know that to be a fact. So if you look at that, it takes 5 trucks to make $1 million.
Mhm.
Um,
Let's
and then
expand on that a little bit because this is the thing. So we teach that if you do what we tell you to do and you run a trucking business, a single truck trucking business the way that we do, that you should net taxable income after all expenses are paid $150,000 to $200,000. Okay. So it's easy to say, oh, well, I can make 150 with one, I can make 300 with two. Well, that's where you're wrong.
yeah, that doesn't work.
Because now if your second truck was autonomous, you'd be in business. But that truck has to have a driver. Okay. And truck drivers are very fickle. They will come to you with great enthusiasm and they will leave you 2 weeks later. So you have to look at your second truck as maybe a if it run all year, it might make you a third of what your truck will make. So if your truck can make 150, that truck might make you 40 or 50. So then the third truck, same deal, maybe 40 or 50 or something like a third, just because it's going to end up sitting. A driver's going to tear it up. They're going to leave it sitting. It is not going to be as productive because you can never hire yourself. Nobody will ever drive your truck the way you do. So if you wanted to use that metric and say, okay, well, I can make 150 to 200 myself, and I could have 4 or 5 more that made me about 50, then, it's probably going to take 10 or 12 or 15 to make you a clear $1,000,000.
And that's it in 1 year, or you can make it over a period of time. It took me 4.5 years to make $1 million with one truck. So
Right.
it depends on how the time frame you're talking about. But you're right. You're never going to get, and this is what everybody found this out. The reason that we're doing the program the way we are now with using other people's trucks are because they all added second and third trucks during the COVID because they thought that they could run these trucks like
Mhm.
their first truck and double their money. And then they found out that managing people is not the same as driving trucks. And so truck drivers are not very good human resource people. And so they ended up not being very good employers. And so they ended up with these empty trucks sitting everywhere. So instead of me having to go out and buy trucks, I could just go out and say, hey, why don't you loan me that truck that's sitting in the weeds right now? Cut the weeds out from around it, bring it down here to Charleston, let us use it for you. We'll split the money with you. That's how this thing got started,
Mhm.
with using other people's trucks. So you can't just throw the keys when there's an example on Facebook today in one of the Landstar groups, Chris, you probably saw it, where a guy who was working for a BCO, which we that's
Mhm.
a slippery slope in and of itself, but he was bitching and whining on Facebook that he didn't get to go home because the person who he works for, the BCO he works for, didn't send him home. Um, and I mean, that's just a good example of why the second truck doesn't make any money, because you've got an employee that expects you to, quote, take care of them. Taking care of
Mhm.
them does not mean being a profitable truck. It means when they need to go home, you send them home, even if you have to pay to deadhead them home. So you've got a problem. You have a very, very problem with profitability in a truck that you have a truck driver in. Teaching a truck driver to drive for profit is very difficult. You can teach a monkey easier than you can a truck driver. But but that's where the problem comes in. Is you think you're going to get somebody that's going to drive your second truck like you drove your first truck, and that's never, ever, ever going to happen. I've had some very, very good people here. The only person I've ever had to drive my truck as good as me is the other guy on this screen right here. But he's the only. I mean, I've never, ever, ever found anybody that I could hire that I would say is as good as me until I found him. And I said, finally, in my lifetime, I finally hired me. Um, but that's you're not gonna do. He's not for hire, by the way, and you're not gonna
Keep
find anybody else like him. So you're not gonna do it. But that's just not gonna happen. So you're gonna be disappointed because truck number two, Truck number 3 is going to not make near what truck number 1 does because you're dealing with another individual who is not committed to the truck like you are. They're committed to your entitlement that you're going to give them because that's what employees do.
Mhm.
Um, and that was my question to this guy today. I was like, why you're at Landstar, you're driving for owner operators. Why don't you just be an owner operator? Then you could do what you want to. But of course, he didn't answer that.
Mhm.
It's another whole topic we could talk about, Chris. But
Bob
uh,
on TikTok says, "Treat your drivers right, and they will stay with you."
Bob, you're
Bob.
absolutely delusional. Okay. And it's not just drivers. I treated our dry cleaning employees right,
Mhm.
and they would leave you for a nickel. Okay,
Mhm.
that's just not true. I mean, employees, you're when you're dealing with an employee, you're dealing with a different. Everything is a problem for an employee, and the first thing they want to do to solve that problem is guess what? Not
Mhm.
come to work. Okay, hey, my car broke down, so I'm gonna take off today. Good. So I mean, the thing they needed to do the most was make some money, and the last thing they wanted to do was go work and make money.
Mhm.
Employees are a very, very, very different breed of animal. And I don't care how good you treat them, especially truck drivers. Okay. Truck drivers think that they're not treated very well. And I mean, this is just a common misconception, Bob. Um, some of the people we've treated the best are the worst people we've ever had here. That
Mhm.
has nothing, there is no correlation between how good they are and how they're treated. There's zero correlation. Now, I know you truck drivers are going to get on here and defend that because y'all get butt hurt because you think nobody appreciates you. But understand something. People don't come. We tell, if you went through our interview process, you would understand something right up front. And we had one yesterday. Okay. We had one yesterday. Um, we made it perfectly clear to that person, that you're not coming here for a job. Okay. That's not what you're coming here for. And we had people on our comments last week talking about this. Okay. And I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but now that you brought it up, we will. Someone made a comment last week that, well, why don't you let them lease purchase a truck from you so that they can share in some of this profit y'all are making? I couldn't even think of a worse idea. They can come here and use our trucks right now for free with no
Mhm.
financial responsibility and get paid the biggest percentage of the pay. But your idea was that we're screwing them and we're making all the money, so let's make them buy a truck and make some of the money. I mean, that just that there's no logic that applies there.
Well,
Chris,
and
help me
you
if I'm
said,
Chris, me
and
if I'm
you
not if I'm messing that up, but
well, but
that's
you also said, um, they have no risk, right?
right, right.
If that's the problem with these lease purchases, you guys aren't calculating for the risk that you're taking that the carrier has completely transferred to you, and that's what we would be doing if we were, putting our people in lease purchases. We would be transferring the risk, and that's what we're trying to get them to not do. And I've told this story, Bob, and I'll tell it again. We had a guy come to us that was in the midst of repossession of his truck. He was a Landstar BCO. He told us that, um, oh, listen, I've done everything wrong, and my truck's getting repossessed, and I found you guys on YouTube, and I want to come and drive for you, and you show me everything. And so we spent 3 full days with this guy. We had paid his way there. We had bought every meal. We paid for his hotel. We spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with him going over, and I mean, they were like 8 and 10 hour days going over the programming, going over how you fail and how you succeed. He said, I want you to get me a load through the house so I can load up the truck. I said, not a problem. He went to the house and abandoned the truck at the TA in Janesville, Wisconsin. And that was it. And I said, no, no, that's not proper. You need to bring the truck back here. No, I'm not going to do that. My OCD is too bad. And the truck's too dirty. And I'm like, well, it wasn't too dirty for your fat ass to drive it to Wisconsin. Now, was it? But he drove it up there. So I spent Halloween driving to Wisconsin to bring the truck back because this guy, um, who we poured all of our time and information into, and he just abandoned the truck. Um, so you need to, if you have never owned and operated a truck, and you plan on the first thing you need to get out of your head is treat drivers right and they'll stay with you, because that's absolutely not true. Um, there have been people that have treated me well when I was an employee driver. And when I found a better deal, I left, period. And I don't, um, oh, here's a
When you
good one.
guys hear me talk about truck drivers, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Truck drivers are a particularly whiny ass narcissistic bunch of people. And they're that way because this industry coddles them. Because this industry is so desperate to have somebody drive these trucks for them that they try to make drivers act or feel like that they're irreplaceable. And that's just simply not true. I mean, if you think you're not irreplaceable, go to a McDonald's lobby and look around, okay? And you'll find out how irreplaceable you are. Um, you guys are
Here,
trying to pull my chain tonight, I'm sure, because OJ's asking me, do you pay
yeah,
drivers 1099 or W 2?
listen, that was next. That was next. OJ,
OJ, you pay employees on a W 2.
yeah,
You pay independent contractors on a 1099. So if you're talking about one of our drivers, they come here to drive our equipment as our employees. So we pay them on a W 2 because that's the legal, ethical, and moral thing to do. And it doesn't
we're not.
require that they pay 15.3% of taxes that I should be paying. And it gives them unemployment benefits and workers' compensation and things that employees are entitled to have. Um, so I'm not going to get in this argument tonight because somebody's just trying to pull my chain. But that's the most elementary argument that we have here is this 1099 versus W2. There is no such thing as a 1099 employee. Those two words can't go in the same sentence. A 1099 is an independent contractor. That means that they have the ability to go in business for themselves. They have their own business structure. They have their own equipment. You're paying them to use their equipment to do work for you. Think of it as a plumber or electrician or whatever. Get trucking out of your head. For whatever reason, this industry, and it's because truck drivers who buy second trucks and hire drivers don't understand their responsibility as an employer, or they shirk their responsibility because they just don't want to do it right. Number one, they're broke as hell and have no money, so they shouldn't even be hiring somebody else because they don't have the ability to accept that responsibility. So what do? They hire them, quote, on a 1099 basis so that they shirk their responsibility and say, here, this truck, go drive it, make some money with it. Whatever you make, we'll pay you on 1099. And we've convinced that the people who drive those trucks, that's a better deal for them, even though it's absolutely not. But anyway, I'm not going to get my blood pressure up over this shit tonight. But to answer your
Well,
question, we
we
pay on
don't.
a W 2.
The bottom line is we don't pay employee truck drivers on 1099s because we're not thieves and we're not crooks. So if you hear my voice
And we're not broke.
and you're paying an employee truck driver on a 1099, you're a crook. You're a
Yeah,
thief. And if you
absolutely.
accept a 1099 for an employee truck driving job, you're a moron.
You're a whore.
Uh,
You're a
Joey
whore with a
Bag of
pimp.
Donuts. Joey Bag of Donuts on TikTok. Do you load plan for the driver or let them work the board? Well, we have an 18-month masterclass program that our drivers are in. And so everyone starts out having their loads booked for them until they have had the time and have learned all of the processes of booking their own loads. And because the point is for them to get to booking their own loads so that when they own their own truck, when they complete the program, they know how to build revenue. So it's not an either or. You come in, we do everything for you in the beginning. We teach you the processes that we use for revenue generation, and then they start booking their own loads. But they book their own loads on a revenue gathering strategy, not I like going to Idaho, so I'm going to take loads to Idaho. What you like, what you want has no bearing on the loads that you pick. You take the loads that pay the money for the allotted amount of time that you have involved in that load. We don't book loads based on rate per mile. We don't book loads based on driver preference. We book loads based on can I pick it up today and get rid of it tomorrow? And does it pay a minimum total amount of revenue.
To keep it in tune with what we're talking about, when they first come here, to treat them right, we book the loads for them because we're better at doing it than they are, and it helps them make more money. But they're here to learn how to do this for themselves. So eventually, gradually, we transition over to where they book their own as it doesn't become detrimental to the income of the truck. And then we teach them our methods of our strategies for doing that. So it's a gradual process as they're comfortable with doing it. And that way it helps us in our treatment of them so that they're treated right. For all you whiny ass truck drivers out there that think we're too mean, that's the reason we do it that way.
Darren Brinkley on TikTok says, if you had the business, you do, but just wanted employees, would you book the loads or let drivers?
I wouldn't.
Well,
I would be gone. I would have a bullet in the brain.
Darren, if I had to operate a fleet of trucks without the masterclass program, I would get in a truck and I would drive it into a bridge abutment at 75 miles an hour. There is absolutely no chance that I would operate trucks just solely for the purpose of having trucks and hiring drivers. The only reason that either one of us is doing this is because of the program.
Darren, let me put it this way. We enjoy what we do, teaching people who drive trucks but have the right attitude and understanding that they're in this to make money as a business, not as a truck driver. But if I had to deal with truck drivers, I would never, ever, ever do this business. Okay. I would never, ever be in this business because I cannot stand the mentality and attitude of dealing with truck drivers. I would either shoot me or I would shoot them. Well, either way, somebody's going to die.
Going to jail.
Yeah. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to put up with the attitude that I see on these comments and I see in the Facebook groups. I got into some algorithm today. Some old goober that drives grain trucks or something was bitching about drivers taking cheap freight and hurting the brotherhood. And I listened to it for a while, and I finally had to just leave. But I mean, listen, I cannot. I'm a nice guy, and I'm pretty easygoing, but my tolerance for that is so short that I mean, I want to commit homicide when I run into shit like that because it's such an ignorant, unintellectual, non-educated, narcissistic view that how could you possibly take that cheap freight? I mean, how are you making any money? Well, believe me when I tell you this, we haul lots of cheap freight here and we make plenty of money. Okay. Um, but it's because we know how to do it. What it's not the cheap freight that's the problem. It's your excessive cost of doing business because you're too stupid to understand that your fuel costs and everything like that is causing you not to be able to take that freight because it's too cheap for you. It's not too cheap for me. And number one, I don't give a rat's ass whether if I take the freight, whether it hurts you or not, because you're my competition. I'm not in your brotherhood. Okay. I don't have a brotherhood. I have zero friends. All right. Friends cost you money and I don't have friends. So I certainly don't have friends in the trucking industry. And I certainly don't have goobers that drive trucks as friends. But I mean, if you're doing this because you think you're going to be good to your brotherhood, you've got a lot to learn. But that's why I can't do this, is because I would never, ever, ever deal with that.
I was riding in the truck with my daughter last weekend. She's 18. She started her first day at the trade school today. And she was asking me about like the lifestyle of trucking, right? And that's the conversation we're going on. And I said, well, I had to be okay with solitude and being by myself, right? For years, and that's part of that trucking lifestyle is there's just so much solitary time. And she said, well, what's it like now that you're working in the shop? Like, you don't have that solitude anymore. And she's
he
like,
wishes he had solitude now.
I said, no, it's like working with a bunch of 15-year-olds. It's nothing but fart jokes and I mean, it's just constant chaos. So sometimes, listen, one of our trucks become available, and there was a fleeting moment for like 5 minutes, like I'm gonna get in that sumbitch and drive to California, just because I want to turn off my phone and just listen to podcasts, because that's something that I have not gotten to do since I quit driving 3 years ago. I don't get to listen to podcasts and books anymore because there's too much going on. Um, some of y'all need to cherish the solitude that you've got. Because when you get out of the truck and you have to start working normal jobs around normal people, you better be ready to deal with it. Um, Blake asks, we always say 99 to '07. Why not 98 or 97? Um, there's really nothing wrong with 98 or 97. The the Century, the C120 platform came out in 97. Um, Realistically, I would probably say that my recommendation would really not be 99 to '07. It would probably be '04 to '07. Um, just because they're just getting old. I mean, oh my gosh, a 99 is 25 years old. Um, they're still manageable, and that platform was still made as gliders as late as 2021. Um, but with the Detroit 96, 97, you're still dealing with like DDEC 2 and DDEC 3. Um, DDEC 4, I think, came in 90. Somebody can correct me. I'm sure somebody will correct me on this. I think DDEC 4 came out in late 98 or 99. So you just kind of get the best of what the technology had from 99 to '07. You know what I mean? You start getting before 99. I mean, electronic engines go back to 93, 94, 95. But it was primitive. The DDEC 4, DDEC 5 is a lot better manageable. So, you find a Cherry 97 has been well taken care of, and it wouldn't be anything wrong with that. Austin, what about a 98 Classic XL? Nope. Here's a couple of problems with the Classics. Number one, the big problem is fuel mileage. And I don't know if y'all have noticed and drove past the truck stop here lately. Fuel is expensive, and it's your number one cost as an owner operator. A 98 Classic XL with a 12.7 and a 13 speed is going to cost you $15,000 a year in additional fuel over an aerodynamic truck. So that's the first problem with a Classic. And Classics are my favorite truck to drive. But I like money. The second problem with the Classic is it's based on the FLD platform. And the FLD has been out of production now, completely out of production since 2007. Getting parts for Classics and FLDs is getting to be more difficult. Okay? So let's remember, why are we in business as owner operators? To make money. How do we make money as owner operators? Pulling freight. If you have to sit even an extra day trying to find a part for an FLD platform, that's money that you don't have time to wait for. Okay? One of my close friends drives a 2001 XL Classic with the 84-inch bunk. Now of course his looks like a race car because he spent $40,000 on paint, but he's been an owner operator for 15 years, right? He's had the time and he's earned the right to drive whatever truck he wants for whatever reason he wants. If you are a new owner operator, you have never been in business before, you absolutely do not buy a Classic, a W9, or a 379. Business is hard. 95% of first-time owner operators fail. Business failure is disastrous, and it can destroy everything in your life. So you need every advantage working for you when you start a new business. So you don't need to go buy a truck that's going to cost you an additional $15,000 a year in fuel. And that's if you do everything right to it to make it get the best fuel mileage it can. Now, if you put double coin tires on it and you drive it like like your Dale Earnhardt's cousin, you're going to spend $25,000 a year in fuel. Okay. So you should absolutely not, as your first truck, as an owner operator, have a long hood truck that is going to get shitty fuel mileage. Bob Tormey, comfort is important. No, it's not. Not in business, it's not. Comfort is the last thing that is important in business. Now, if you want to be comfortable, go get a really nice company drop. I mean, those Walmart trucks, I bet, are super comfortable, and you can make all kinds of money. But we're talking about being in business here, and comfort is uh, nowhere on the page when it comes to surviving in business. Comfort doesn't matter. You can go down and buy you a nice, comfortable seat and put in an ugly truck for about $800, and you can make $150 to $200,000 a year with that ugly truck. But you don't need to be comfortable. You don't need to try to impress people at stoplights that you probably wouldn't like, even if you did talk to them. Um, what would you pay for a 2014 Coronado glider? No, I wouldn't. Zero. Um, I would not buy a glider. Too
Bob,
much risk.
Bob, you have got and you have got the classic employee mentality. You have to understand that when you decide to go into business, the only thing that matters is for you to stay in business. And what keeps you in business is making a profit. Unfortunately, comfort does not contribute to profit. It only contributes to your satisfaction. Your customer doesn't pay you anymore for you to be comfortable. So you have to understand that these priorities that you have now as a company driver that you just admitted you are is not the mentality that you have to be a business owner, which is why we call our program Reset Your Mindset. Because the reason that most truck drivers fail when they become owner operators is because they keep thinking like a truck driver and they quit and they don't know how to think as a business owner. And so I'm not picking on you, but understand that that's what we do here is we teach employee mentality drivers how to change their mindset to become successful in business. And it takes a complete undoing of all the brainwashing you've had up to now that our education system, this industry, our society has given you, and make you understand that if you're going to be successful in business, you have to think differently than you do when you're driving a truck for somebody else. Um, so I just wanted to address that because some of your comments are a little bit. Well, if I didn't know better, I would think you were just trying to pull my chain. But I don't. I think maybe you really aren't. But anyway,
Right.
understand that the mentality of a business owner is much different than the mentality of an employee, and it's hard for you to understand that till you've been one. But when you've been one and you start seeing that, it becomes very apparent to you how different things are. And a lot of these things that you're saying are obviously from the viewpoint of an employee. And when you're in the behind the desk and you're responsible for making payroll every weekend and responsible for all the livelihood of everybody that works for you, you have to make decisions based on different things. And comfort, unfortunately, is not one of them. It's probably the last thing that we worry about. But there again, that's the difference between what we do. That's why we don't hire truck drivers to drive trucks because that's what's important to them. That's not important to us. We're here to teach you how to get and stay in business. And believe me, I tell you this, your customer could care less about your comfort. If you don't believe me, go try to find a bathroom in one of them, okay?
Yeah.
So, you just have to change your thinking. And that's what we try to do here. Although it's somewhat controversial, it makes us sound hard and cold. But let me tell you something: business is hard and cold,
Yep.
and it's not comfortable when you're in bankruptcy court because you failed. So that's why comfort is not at the top of our list.
Uh, Joey said that when he was a BCO, he got turned down by the agent that does concert tours because his truck was ugly. And Rocky said they did him a favor. I almost did when I was a brand new BCO in 2014. I almost did an Aerosmith tour because I thought, how cool would it be to be on an Aerosmith tour? And then I ran into somebody that told me the truth about being doing concert tours. And there's nothing sexy about it. Um, but I would say that that's one of those things that is very specialized. And there's people that, there are people that love doing concert tours. Like they just love it. I think I'd rather take a beating than to do a concert tour. But there's so much other freight that you would
Yeah,
be
I was
able
gonna
to
say,
do.
so what? So what? We have never, ever, ever had a load not given to us because of the way our trucks looked. Never. And we make lots of money. So the fact that we didn't do a concert tour, it didn't put us out of business. I mean, guys, don't get hung up on these little exceptions because we had a comment the other. I forget now where it was, but somebody was talking about detention, and I started looking at our income this year versus our accessorial pay,
Oh yeah, that's a good
and
point.
somebody was talking about how they never get paid detention, da 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 da, da and how do we do that, da da da. I'm like, look, we don't worry about it. We move on. Um, I told you earlier, our income this year is $1.4 million.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of that 1.4 million, about 50 grand is accessorials, all kinds, but that includes the detention and layover and all that kind of stuff. So if we had sat there and let that $50,000 income stream affect us and whine and moan and bitch and sit around and complain and wait to get paid, and then didn't do the other. I mean, we just went on with our business. I mean, we didn't worry about it. We went ahead and made $1.6 million. Besides that, the 50 grand just ended up being a little bonus. We end up getting it. We don't get it. Who deal? You guys, you worry about this little shit, and all it does is get your concentration off the main stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you keep your attention on the main stuff, the little stuff doesn't matter. It's pennies. Um, I can't do the math in my head right now, but 50 grand versus 1.4 million. There's a percentage there. Uh,
I have a calculator and I'm not afraid to use it.
all right.
50,000 divided by 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 0.0357.
Okay. So I mean, we just forgot about it. You didn't get detention. What's the next load? Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Listen, we'll cash the check when they send it.
absolutely, but we don't let it get us sideways and affect the fact that we're still going to go on, get another load, make some more money. I mean, again, look at the big picture. Um, if we sat around all day and harped about the fact that we didn't get detention, and then we didn't book another load, and the truck just sits there, and everybody's whining and moaning, and complaining, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, you just move on. It's just it's not. It's keeping you from making money because you're worried about little shit based on principle, kind of like you know all these other things that truck
Mhm.
drivers get hung up in.
Well, since we've talked about money, let's go ahead and move into the financial report since I've actually got the right one on the screen now. Let me put it up for you or for what you call them over here, TikTok. Okay, so here is our weekly report that we did from. I do these on Wednesday. So here we are where we have truck number one. I'm just going to go through the numbers for truck number one, and you guys can screen record or screenshot whatever you want to do. And when we get done, I'll talk about gliders because there's been a couple of questions about gliders. Let's do this financial report. So truck number one, the big winner for the week did 2,711 loaded miles, 238 deadhead miles. So what is that? 3,049. Had a gross revenue of $8,750. The net revenue after the Landstar percentage was $6,196.26. The driver pay was $1,824.10. And then we have a payroll cost of $200.65. Now, I want to pause on this just for a minute because I want y'all aspiring owner operators to think about this driver pay column. Okay. If you are operating a truck by yourself and you are not accounting for the cost of a driver, you do not know your actual cost to operate your truck. You cannot drive the truck for free. So I would highly recommend that you set yourself up in LLCs with a subchapter S election, and you pay yourself a payroll every week. The IRS demands a reasonable salary. Okay. Well, here's your problem in 2024. A reasonable salary for a truck driver these days is not $50,000. Okay. If you slip on the ice and break your shoulder and can't drive that truck and you got to get somebody to drive it, they ain't going to turn the ignition on for 50 grand. So you better have some sort of reasonable calculation in your accounting. Now, we pay 25% of line haul and accessorials, right? And that's what this worked out to be. This guy got $1,824.10. That came to at a cost to us of $200.65. Now that payroll cost is why these dirtbag thieves and crooks that want to pay you on a 1099, that right there is why. Because they don't want to pay that payroll cost. They want you to pay that payroll cost. And you're going to pay that payroll cost if you're working on a 1099. All right, fixed expenses this week on the settlement were $265.39. Other expenses, this would be like a scale ticket or comm data fees or TransFlow scanning, $31. All right, that truck had a fuel cost of $1,101.06. So the profit before maintenance, and you could call this your net settlement, right? This would kind of be like what your net settlement is after you paid all this stuff. $2,366.56. So your cost per mile before maintenance is $1.16. Now we use a flat 25 cents a mile for maintenance. We used to say 15, but that's before the price of parts and service went through the damn roof. And the higher it goes in price, the worse it gets in quality. So we're going to have a 25 cent cost per mile for maintenance added to that. All right. So here is our gross rate per mile, right? It's what's billed to the customer. So it wasn't a bad week. Last week we had a guy that was over $4 a mile, all miles. Now this guy here, this was a van pulling van freight, because somebody in the comment was asking what's the rate for van right now. Well, his average for all miles last week was $2.97. So the net rate per mile is sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. Net rate per mile, that would be, after Landstar's percentage, $2.10. Okay. And then we get to then we have that net after we account for the maintenance. So that's 69 cents a mile profit after everything was paid: maintenance, fuel, insurances, driver, payroll, everything was paid. You had a profit of 69 cents. So if we take that profit after maintenance and we multiply it by the all miles, the loaded and empty miles, we get $2,036.81. So now if we will add that profit after maintenance to the driver pay, remember the driver got $1,800 and what was it? Driver got $1,824. So we add that to the $2,036.81, and you get a net profit for that truck this week, $3,860.91 profit. taxable income after all expenses were paid. The only expenses that wouldn't be included here would be like office supplies or your cell phone bill. But this is everything that would come out of a truck settlement, every gallon of fuel, paying the driver, paying the payroll costs. There's no other expenses to be paid in operating this truck. And you got $3,860.91. So if we annualize that, let's just say we multiplied that by 50 weeks, 3860 times 50, $193,000 net profit pulling a van at Landstar. Okay.
Hauling cheap freight.
Hauling cheap freight. Because ain't, oh, nobody's got, no, this sucks. And I saw one today. I'm about to leave Landstar because it's just terrible. Well, I mean, our lowest profit was $2,200. We had one almost $4,000. Now I'm gonna give you. Let me just give y'all a little preview of next week. It's gonna suck. Okay, I can tell you right now. Okay. Now, also, is it next week? Yes. After next week, I'm going to give you a full month report for August. Because next week's going to be, it's going to be ugly because we had people going on time off. We had one guy with the, 75 scale tickets trying to get the load reweighed. We had some problems. And so we're going to get to show y'all a pretty bad week. But fortunately, we will also have a monthly report to do. And we'll get to show you what a month looks like, which is going to be much better. You have anything to add to that before I start talking about gliders?
No, I don't think so. I just think it's, here's the thing, guys. I mean, we're sharing this actual numbers with you. All this doom and gloom that you hear about that you can't make any money in trucking is just absolutely untrue. Here's my take on that. If you want to drive a truck, I'm going to use the term old school, where you can just drive a truck and deliver freight and not have to worry about what things cost. Those days are gone. But if you want to drive a truck and treat your business like a business, there's huge opportunity here to make money. We have rookie drivers driving these trucks. We have
Yep.
really, really good people advising them. But you can also hire the same advisors that they have to help you. So this is not, this is not magic here. This is just again common sense. And stop worrying about what everybody's telling you on Facebook that you can't do, because we're sitting here proving to you that it can be done. We do it every week. We do it with old trucks that are, quote, coddled together to haul cheap freight. Yet, look at the profit that we're showing you transparently that these trucks make. And again, these are with rookie drivers for the most part. Most of our drivers are very, very new to the industry. And so I say that because an experienced driver would probably make fewer mistakes and would actually make more money than this.
Mhm.
And as good as our guys are, again, they're not driving their trucks. So I've always maintained that if it's your truck, your fuel mileage is going to go up, your maintenance cost is going to go down because you're going to take better care of it because it's your wallet. So even though our costs here are good, they would be even lower if these guys were driving their own trucks, not someone else's truck. So this is not pie in the sky. This is doable. Probably could be doable even better if you own your truck and you do business the way we coach you to do it. And oh, by the way, we're available to do that. www.blueribbonlogistics.com. If you don't own your own truck, you can come here and use one of ours. If you own your own truck, we can coach you, especially if you're at Landstar. But even if you're not Landstar, we think we now can work with some other outside carriers, since we found out that you guys don't even know what how your load board works. Um, but this is what we're here to do: is to teach you guys how to be profitable by running your trucking business as a business, not as a trucking company. You guys, the things you think are important are not, the things you don't think important are. And that's why I say reset your mindset. That's what we train you to do here, is to undo all the stuff that this society is put in your head and teach you how to think critically and how to use a calculator. And again, it's not hard. It takes hard work to do it, but it's not like you got to do push-ups or run a marathon. You just have to get your calculator out and just use some practical critical thinking. But if we can do this with rookie drivers, there's no reason why you can't do it. Um,
Here's a
but
good
you,
question.
but you have to be willing to make the mental and the mentality changes to quit letting these negative things interfere with run your business. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Here's a good question. Bull Train 5 on TikTok says, what is the timeline on loads you do to get paid? If we scan the paperwork by Monday at 1400, we get paid on Wednesday. Period.
Yep.
There's no waiting. There's no factoring. We basically run on a Monday to Monday schedule. And if the drivers will only scan that paperwork by 1400 on Monday, we get paid on Wednesday and the drivers get paid on Friday.
Yep.
Here's another one. That kind of goes along with, can we talk about contracted freight is better than load board freight? Well, yes and no.
Maybe
Okay.
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Now, I just went through and looked at these numbers. We did 21 loads, okay, to come up with these numbers. 9 of them were not direct freight, meaning it was C.H. Robinson or it was, who knows? Most of the time, I don't even know who the broker is. So almost half, 21 minus 9. Yeah. So almost half of the loads that we did to get these numbers came from loads that were not direct Landstar customers. They were brokered loads. Now I have a lady, bless her heart. She calls me every day. Do you have a truck? Do you have a truck? Do you have a truck? Now her loads are $100 less than our daily rate. Our daily rate right now is $14.50. And her loads are $100 less, but they're dropping hook on both ends. Well, that's worth $100, right? Because I can generally squeeze it in between 2 loads. Now I'm still trying to get that $100. I'm either going to get that $100 on the load before or that $100 on the load after, right? But a $1,330 load that's dropping hook on both ends, which is why we don't own van trailers, by the way. We can, we can expedite that load and make it go faster where we don't have any time sitting waiting in a dock. Well, that's 4 hours, right? I count for every shipper and every receiver. I give them 2 hours. Well, that $100 that I don't have to sit there is worth $100, right? Here's a good one. You're going to love this.
I see it.
Hold on your seat.
I see it.
I would tell any rookie driver that if they want to make money, go to a union company. No headaches. Listen, I've been around some union companies and ain't nothing but headaches. The union, that's the headache.
The ultimate in entitlement. Go let a union fight for you. I mean, Bob, we just have a basic disagreement. My entire mentality is to be self-reliant. I don't want anybody having to fight my battles for me. I don't want to depend on an employer. I don't want to depend on a union. I don't want to depend on I want to be self-sufficient so that I am the only one that holds me back is me or makes me successful as me.
Yep.
And so I disagree 100% with your mentality. Now listen, if you need that, that's fine. But there's listen, we're always going to need people at McDonald's flipping hamburgers. So everybody can't own the McDonald's, okay? So if being in business is not your cup of tea, I get it. Go get yourself a good job and get all these benefits. But we teach how to be in business here. We don't teach entitlement. We teach the opposite of entitlement. So I mean, we just have to agree to disagree. You would not like us. You would not do well here because we do not conform to any of these things that you have asked tonight, because we just do not. We are trying to get you to break those bonds and be responsible for your own success or failure, not somebody else that did it for you. And I'm listen. The most demoralizing and de-incentivizing place I can think of is to be working for a union, because there it doesn't matter. You could be the best employee, the worst employee, and guess what? You're treated the same. And
Mhm.
I've always gone places
I
and
can't handle that.
outperformed everybody else, and so it let me exceed their their level. I don't want to be. I don't want to be um, guaranteed what everybody else got. I want to earn my own, and that's
I
just
am
the difference.
completely I'm completely capable of representing myself in the marketplace. I don't need to pay anybody to do that for me. Let me go back to, because I started to talk about gliders and then quit. Um, would I own and drive a glider myself? Yes. Okay, I would. I will not recommend a glider to a first time owner operator, especially if you do not have a lot of mechanical knowledge. Okay. I want you to go, if you want to test this theory, okay, and you want to get a glider. I want you to go to any dealership, okay? And I want you to walk in and tell them that you need a slack adjuster. And when they say, "What's your VIN number?" say, "I don't have one." End. Done. The conversation is over. Okay? So here's the problem with glider kits. Glider kits have build sheets with blank spots. If that truck did not come off of the uh, assembly line with an engine, then there is no engine information. Now, that's fine if you're mechanically inclined and you know what an alternator is. Okay. But I've had people place their hand on an alternator and say, "This is the AC compressor," right? You have to know how to identify those parts that are not on that build sheet, because you cannot go to the single celled organism working at the dealership and get the parts that you need. Now, if you want to buy a glider kit and then you want to make an extensive parts list before you ever pull a load with it, so that in case you need something, but I watch every day working at this shop, phone rings. "Hey, Cam Service, how can I help you?" "Yeah, I'm on the side of the road." "Okay, what's wrong with it?" "Oh, my alternator's out." "Okay, well, we're going to have to call and get the part so we can bring it to you." Well, if your parts list is blank, then you're going to have to tell them, "Oh, well, I'm going to need this alternator or this starter or this slack adjuster or this brake chamber. I'm going to need," and you're going to have, so there's so much more knowledge that you have to have in order to run a glider kit. And people in American society these days are not, they don't know these things. And so if you go buy a truck and you don't know how to acquire these parts, and you're sitting on the side of the road or you're broke down somewhere, time is of the essence, right? Risk management and time management is what makes you successful in business. So you cannot afford to sit around wondering, or uh, have somebody come on the side of the road and bring the wrong part, because they're charging you mileage and time. Now they're going to go back and try to find another part. So this is why I am against gliders for first time owner operators. It's not a good plan. It's got too much risk. And you're not gaining. The other problem with it is a mathematical problem. You're not getting enough benefit from that truck as opposed to the same truck 20 years older, right? A 2014 Coronado versus a 2007 Century. Yeah, it's probably cleaner or prettier or more comfortable, but the value for value is just not there. It's just not. Plus, you don't know who built the motor. We saw that with Fitzgerald, right? That you're not guaranteed a trouble free existence just because it's a glider kit. Um, and of course they're ridiculously priced also. They're way, way, way more expensive than the same truck that was built on the assembly line as a complete piece. So that's why I'm against gliders as a practical matter for a first-time owner operator. Here's a Mercedes question. I own an MBE 4000 that's running great. Trucks are cheap. Would be a good idea to move a Series 60. If your Mercedes is running good and making you money, I would not change just for the sake of changing, right? Is a Series 60 better than a Mercedes? Well, yeah. That's that's a factual statement. But I'm not going to buy a truck just for the sake of buying a truck. Now, if you have available capital and you see a deal and you want to go ahead and buy that other truck, I mean, there's that's fine. David Smith, buddy, you can't find shit for a Mercedes. It breaks once you're cooked. Well, that's not true.
That's just not true.
We have two Mercedes, and we had one break, and we were not cooked. DD15 or PACCAR? Oh, DD15 all day long. Y'all can take a PACCAR and shove it. I want nothing to do with a PACCAR.
Talk about being cooked when it breaks.
You want to be cooked.
Yeah.
Listen, $8,500 turbo on a PACCAR. No, hell no. And the Cummins are getting a little bit stupid on some of that stuff too. No. P. Karras says, I love my PACCAR. Well, you might for now. Explain the difference in labor times.
People that do lease purchases love them too, because they have to defend the decision that they made because they made a decision. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I can tell you right now from our experience that you couldn't shove a PACCAR in my front yard if you gave it to me.
No.
It's not user friendly. It's too expensive. It's too expensive to work on. It's too expensive to find parts for it. There's just no comparison. I mean, it's, now if I had bought one 10 years ago, and I had good luck with it, I might say, hey, I had a good one. I had a Mercedes-Benz motor for 8 million miles. Had no problem out of it, but I'm still not going to sit here and tell you to go buy one of them because I was very, very lucky. Most of them do not do near that well. And so, you can't just defend your poor decisions to cover up for your indiscretions. You have to come to reality at some point in time. And
Right.
The PACCAR is for us is a hard no, deal breaker. No.
Wade on YouTube says, does or will Blue Ribbon teach on how to start the LLC? Yeah, I mean, we know. I mean, listen, starting an LLC is super easy.
There's nothing to that. You can even pay somebody to do it for you for a few bucks.
It's not a big deal. Now, what we're going to do is explain the why. There's lots of different ways to start an LLC. That's not a big deal. It's the why do you start an LLC? Why do you do a subchapter S corp election? Why do you set up payroll? That's what we're going to tell you. As far as how to set one up. It ain't hard. Call your Secretary of State or go on their website and fill out some paperwork, and boom, you're an LLC. That part's super easy. Paul Baker, 2051, been a mechanic for 40 years. PACCAR is the worst engine I've ever worked on. I have seen that. I can testify to that in the shop. They are absolute nightmares to work on. The design, where they put stuff, they're just a terrible, terrible, terrible design. And I've got to see it on the shop side because I see these things come in, and when somebody says PACCAR, you can hear the groan all through the shop because everybody despises working on PACCARs. Yeah, no PACCAR. Well, and here's another. This is something that we found. We had a 20. Was it an 18? Yeah, we had a 2018 T680 with a PACCAR. We had two of them, and Carl said, "Hey man, we need to replace this pipe, this coolant pipe, because it's getting ready to start leaking. It's not leaking yet, but it's getting ready to. And it's like a long pipe, and it's got these things branching off of it." So I called the Kenworth dealer and I said, "Hey, I need to get this thing." And she said, "Okay, well, it'll be about 6 weeks." And I said, "What?" "Oh yeah, they're made to order." I'm like, "Made to order? What the hell?" Um, and so that was a whole ordeal. Then the truck had been leased to FedEx its whole life. And then we put it in our fleet. Well, it was at like 63 mile an hour or something. And I went to the Kenworth dealer and I said, "Hey, we need to turn this thing up." "Okay, we'll have to call and get Kenworth's permission." I'm like, "No, you don't need Kenworth's permission. I just gave you permission. I'm the operator of the truck. I'm the one that gives permission." "No, no, you gotta call Kenworth. And you gotta get Kenworth's permission." And I said, "The hell with Kenworth then. I will never ever have a Kenworth if I've got to call Kenworth and get permission to do something to the damn truck. That ain't happening. Absolutely not." Darren says, uh, "PACCAR is the Daewoo of truck engines." Listen, I've drove them and I've not worked on them because I won't. And I've watched guys have to work on them. PACCAR is an absolute no. No, no, no. Taylor Willie, "I'm just a sole proprietor, but would I would love to learn about the LLC option." Well, here's the why. The why is the KGB, I mean the IRS, says that you have to pay taxes. Okay. So let's say, for example, you're a sole proprietor, you do things how we tell you, and you make that $150,000 to $200,000 a year. As a sole proprietor, you're going to pay the self-employment tax on every penny of all of that profit. If you set up an LLC and do the S corp election, you can pay yourself a reasonable salary that's a lot less than 150 or 200,000, and you only have to pay that self-employment tax on that income. The rest of it is taxed at a lower rate called a dividend. And so you will pay a lot less taxes. So when you see, like, for example, they've been having this liars convention the last few days up in where are they at? Milwaukee or no, the other one was in Milwaukee. Anyway, all the liars are trotting out, "Oh, corporations don't pay taxes." Well, the reason they say that is because they find legal ways to reduce your tax bill. And one of those is taxing yourself as a subchapter S, so you don't have to pay payroll tax on all that. And it can save you a considerable amount of money. It could save you $15,000 or $20,000 a year just in taxes. So that's why if you're going to make over $65,000 net profit, you should have an S corp election. Now it comes with some costs, and that's why we say over 65,000, because you're going to have to do a corporate tax return, and it's going to, there's things that you have to do that cost a little bit more. But that's why you do it. Vanish, have cash money. Should I buy a 24 Cascadia instead of a used one? Okay. Tell me about this cash money. Have you ever owned a truck, Vanish? And have you ever been in business as an owner operator before? I want to know the answer to that question before I give you my answer. So I'll be waiting. Hendrickson steer suspension in Columbia. Inexperienced to share. Yes, they suck. They're terrible. They ride good, but you better keep those kingpins properly greased. And you need to have someone, preferably an MD alignment shop, check your kingpin bushings, because on the Hendrickson, the kingpin is made into the axle. So if they are not properly greased, eventually when those bushings get wore out, they will wear out that kingpin, and the only remedy is to replace the entire axle. So we are not big fans of the Hendrickson. We've got a couple of trucks with it, but you need to be doing a proper, at least every couple of months, you need to jack that truck up in the air to where both of the steer tires are hanging and don't have any weight on them. Turn it all the way to the right and pump grease into it until you push all that dirt out, and then turn it all the way to the left and push it. Just pump and pump and pump and pump and pump, and then turn it back to the center and pump and pump and pump and pump. So you're getting all of that moisture and dirt and everything in there. But the Hendrickson steer suspension has to be properly maintained with preventative maintenance, or you're going to end up replacing the whole axle. So not a fan. Well, I guess old Cash Money ain't going to answer me. I'll answer it this way. If you have never been in business and you have cash money and you have the choice between buying a 24 Cascadia and a used one, and you got that kind of money, I would go buy an 07. I would certainly buy an 18, because right now you can get an 18 for probably 30, a 19 for probably 30, but no. There we go. He says, I have a paid for 2020 T680. It's costing me more in repair. Just replaced the transmission, $22K. Jesus H. Well, you need a new mechanic. But again, this is these stupid trucks with these $10,000 transmissions. That's why I hate these automatics. MHC Kenworth in Atlanta. Yeah. Well, that's it. Listen, Rocky sent me a video the other day of a guy with a 21 T680 with 300 and some thousand miles on it, and the differential went out, and they wouldn't warranty it for whatever reason. And he sent me a video of the pinion moving like a half an inch. And they said, oh, that's in spec. Vanish, what I would tell you, you need to find a shop. Cam's charges $140 an hour. I mean, stop going to these dealerships. I mean, that's just insane. $258 an hour. It'd be one thing if they were worth $258 an hour, but most of them aren't worth $58 an hour. It's just insane what these crooks can get away with. So you need to stop. First thing, stop going to MHC Kenworth. Dude, there are so many shops around, small independent shops that will be somewhere between $120 and $150 an hour that will actually repair your truck better than the dealerships will. So that's absolutely got to stop first. You don't need to spend another dime in a dealership. How about a 2014 Pete 579 with 600,000 miles PACCAR engine? Absolutely not. You could not give me that truck. Number one, it's a 2014. Everything from 08 to 15 is an absolute no. And I don't care what it is. Detroit, Cummins, PACCAR, 08 to 2015 is an absolute no-go. The emission systems are unmanageable. From 16 and up, the emission systems they're better designed and they're more manageable. Vanish, you need to go see Rocky down in Jacksonville. Rocky Rockefeller, North Florida MD alignment. And I promise you, and then come up to Charleston, West Virginia. If you want to get your truck worked on and not get ripped off, come and see us. $258 an hour. God almighty. For fuel mileage, buy an old Prime Cascadia direct drive with 215 gears. Yeah. I can't get past, man. So Vanish, Rocky is just he just responded to you. That's Rocky at North Florida MD alignment in Jacksonville. And we are Blue Ribbon. We work with Cam's Service Center in Charleston, West Virginia. Any good mechanics in Indy? None that I know of, but Indy's a big place, and I bet use Google reviews.
So we know some places to not go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Blake, to answer your question, I'm gonna guess 1,900 to 2,500. Am I close?
What are y'all talking about? His I
He
saw his
just filed
comment.
he just filed his corporate tax return, and
Oh,
he wanted me to guess how much it costs. I'm assuming you mean for the accountant to file the return. I think that's the question you're asking me.
yeah. I mean, listen, there's nothing I hate more on earth than dealerships. That's why I call them stealerships. Um, this 200 and $250 an hour, um,
40. 40.
40K.
Whoa.
Good
You
Lord. Huh.
you must have a PACCAR for your for your corporate return. Wow. Well, I know your business is pretty complex, but I mean, Jesus, that's a lot.
What should I look for in a farm truck hauling out of the field? The cheapest you can find.
Yeah.
Uh, $220 an hour Freightliner in Sheboygan. I mean, that's unacceptable. That's absolutely unacceptable, especially given how terrible their service is. It's just it's unconscionable that they think they can get by uh, with charging over $200 an hour because they're useless.
Rocky needs Kyle.
23 trucks to do on the weekend. Holy crap!
Listen,
Kyle's busy.
I do all the deals. Kyle has to go through me. So
Yeah.
I'm the agent for Kyle. Okay.
Yeah, I just listen. It's hard enough being an owner operator to go in and get ripped off, but you know that people in this country are trained, you know, from the earliest age to just believe that the dealership must that's where all the good mechanics are. No, it's not. That is not where all the good mechanics are. There are some there, I'm sure. You know, you can probably find a dealership somewhere that has a good person, but they're still not worth 200 and some dollars an hour. Um, any reputable shops in Alabama around the Birmingham area? Phil knows of a guy, but I can't think of the name of it right now. I haven't seen Phil on here tonight. He must be drinking. Um, well,
Just
drinking wouldn't stop him from watching. He must be busy.
no.
Maybe Random Blonde's got him otherwise disposed.
Honey doing.
Yeah, he might be working on a honey-do list. What percentage do you pay owner? We don't pay owner operators. We are owner operators. Um, we're owner operators leased to Landstar, so we don't pay owner operators. 3 weeks for a transmission is still not done. Good God. It takes a freaking day to hell, I can do a transmission in a day. It's insane. But we had a mentoring client at a dealership out in um, Denver, and they gave her a $10,700 estimate. And I said, pull the truck out. And I found a place down the street. She got it fixed for $1,700. I saved her $9,000 with a phone call. No, we do not take owner operators. Just drop. Now, if you're leased
Well,
to
we
Landstar, we have a mentoring program for Landstar BCOs, but we don't work with Landstars. We don't
yeah.
work with owner operators outside Landstar.
You can't be an owner operator in our masterclass program, okay? But we could mentor you, especially if you're at Landstar. But even if you're not, it's possible we could mentor you. It depends on what you're looking for. Dispatching may or may not be an option for you from us. Um, but business coaching and everything else could be.
If you could get dealership prices at 120 an hour, would you go to the dealership? No,
Mm-mm.
no, because they're not worth it. I mean, it's just
There's there's nothing, you're not getting anything for that money. Because just because they're a dealership doesn't mean anything. As a matter of fact, for us, it's negative.
mhm. I mean, every
We have had better luck just picking somebody, an independent out of a phone book or out of a online directory.
We had a
Um,
bull gear go out on a Detroit 2 or 3 years ago in, I think, San Antonio, and I found some road service guy, and dude did a bull gear in his damn driveway. Literally did it outside, you know, um, for a fraction of the cost. Because we did a bull gear, at the dealership not long before that. It was $10,000, you know, and this dude did it for like 4 in his driveway. The place in Denver was the Freightliner dealer. Um, you said 1450 a day. Is that gross or to the truck? That's gross. What are you guys charging for M frames on a Series 60? Well, we're doing a few N frames on our own. We're not really doing those for the public, but you should be able to find someone to do the labor for around 7 grand. And well, we just bought a kit yesterday, and it was 7,500. So that was buying it direct, so we didn't have any markup. But you should be able to get an N frame done on a Series 60 for $15,000 to $17,000. If anybody's charging you more than $15,000 to $17,000 to do an N frame, they're ripping you off. Can you be an agent and a BCO at Landstar? Yes.
yes.
Why would you? An agent, I think there's a misconception that agents don't work, right? So agents are doing nothing; they're just sitting there playing on their computer. But I mean, can you be a BCO and an agent? Yes, nobody's going to stop you, but you're not going to be a BCO and an agent and be good at both, one or the other. So you guys don't do business with the public. Well, we do. We do. Our main for Blue Ribbon, the Blue Ribbon Specialized Truck Services, our main deal is alignments, MD alignments, OPS installs, diesel force cleaning.
We're not doing engine work right now for the public. We're doing it our own self. Cam's is getting ready to start an engine shop. It's in the planning stages as we speak. But our guys don't do engine work for the public typically.
We
Now
work
that
on
may
our own
change,
truck.
but right now we work on our own
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean that could change. It's just that right now we just don't. Number one, we don't have the time, and number
Mhm.
two, it's just not our expertise. Kyle's still learning.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on non-CDL hot shots? Well, I don't know anything about them, but I wouldn't do it. What does Larry do?
As little as I can get away with. It depends on who you ask.
Uh, well, I'm the fleet manager, and I help manage the shop. And Larry is basically is our accountant for lack of a better term. You know, he's the final authority on all numbers. He is the numbers guy.
I pay the bills.
Yeah. Can your shop work on my 18 Cascadia? Well, Cams can. We can do an alignment for you. We can diesel force clean it. We can put an OPS on it, but Cams can work on your 18 Cascadia. So, you know, we have a kind of a partnership with Cams. We rent space from them, and they're a full service shop, 24/7. They got road trucks or service trucks. Do you get some of your loads not through Landstar? No. We do. We get loads. We get brokered loads through a Landstar agent, but I will not. I don't have the authority to call a load board, you know, and book a load with an outside party. Agents can. And at 21 of the loads that we did last week, 9 of them were broker loads. So just Google Blue Ribbon for your shop. No, I'm working on getting that fixed, but Google is an absolute pain in the ass to deal with. If you'll Google Cam's Service Center, Charleston, West Virginia, that'll get you to us. I'm trying to get the damn Google listing, but it's an absolute nightmare to get set up. But Google Cam's Service Center, Charleston, West Virginia, and that'll bring it to you. Do you have an opinion on fast air dog fuel system? Yes, we do. Larry's truck had a fast system. Um, and it's fuel air separator system. That's what FAST stands for. Air dog's pretty much the same thing. What you're doing is removing air from the fuel. That's the point, and it's an additional filtration to give you the best pressure. Basically, we don't put FAST systems on the trucks that are in the program just because of the extra maintenance that's involved, because you've got to carry the filters with you, you know. And trying to train a driver, it's one of those things. Nobody will run your truck the way you do. If I had a truck, I would have a fast system on it. Like if it was just me and I was a single owner operator, I would have a fast system and an OPS and a fleet air filter. What's the difference between a regular alignment and an MD alignment? Okay, so a regular alignment, they
One's
put
for
you
real,
on.
and the other one is just
Yeah.
a illusion.
One is take $350 out of your pocket and light it on fire. Um,
Yeah.
so here's the problem with a regular alignment on a hunter machine. When the truck comes off of the line at the factory, they get like 7 minutes to line it, and they don't align every truck. They only align a percentage of trucks. So most trucks that are straight from the factory have never been aligned. Okay. But the factory spec says the steer tires can be turned to the left so many degrees, they can be turned to the right so many degrees, and they can be centered. And the factory spec says that the front drive axle thrust angle can be a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, and the rear axle can be a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. So when you go to the TA and the guy hands you a sheet that says it's green, right? See right here, it's green. Well, those are the factory specs, meaning it can turn this way or that way, and it's green. It's in spec. An MD alignment is a performance spec, and it is much, much, much more narrow. So an MD alignment spec for a steer axle is towed in a 32nd of an inch, because when the truck is going down the road, those steer tires are going to be pressed back by the action. So we're going to tow it in just a little bit so that when you're going down the road, the tires are pointed straight. Your rear axle thrust angle is going to be, your front drive is going to point a little bit to the left, and your rear is going to point a little bit to the right, because we want the truck to drive up the crown of the road. So I have been driving trucks since I came to Larry in 2018 with MD alignments. Okay. And I've driven all of our trucks. Every truck that I have driven at Blue Ribbon has had way over 1 million miles. And you can drive them down the road with one finger on the steering wheel. There's none of this shucking back and forth and wearing you out. You could lay one finger on the steering wheel and drive that truck at 65 or 70 miles an hour, and it's straight as an arrow. I drove a truck the other day down to the Peterbilt dealer to drop it off, and that thing wore my ass out in 20 miles. The MD alignment is an as-driven condition, so we don't jack it up. We don't put it on turn plates. We move it back and forth inside the bay to get it settled so that it's setting as it's sitting when it's being driven down the road. And then we adjust it, and then we move it, and we adjust it, and we move it, and we adjust it, and we move it until it's perfect. I do a PM every 10,000 miles of 1530. Good? No. You're throwing away perfectly good oil every 10,000 miles. You need to go to our YouTube channel, Blue Ribbon Logistics, episode 108. Blue Ribbon Logistics on YouTube, episode 108, and you need to learn about the OPS oil purification system. There's no reason to throw perfectly good oil away at 10,000 miles just because.
Or if it got dirty, at 5,000 miles, you just left it in there for 5,000 miles, not knowing how much damage it did to your engine.
Right.
So this regular 10,000 miles, what's that getting you? It's either the oil's either already been dirty too long and you kept it, or it's not dirty yet and you just threw it away. Either way, it's wrong. You're wasting money.
Yep. So if you'll put an OPS system on your truck, you can do an oil sample at 25,000 miles, and the lab will tell you whether or not you need to change it. And if the lab says don't change it, just keep running it. I've seen 250,000 miles on oil without changing it. There's no reason to just change it because, um, you know, now you need to be, like Rocky said, you need to be doing a proper chassis lube, which unfortunately, I mean, we pay $35 for a chassis lube at TA every 12,500 miles or wherever we're at. And very rarely when a truck comes in and I see it, has it been greased. So if you're an owner operator, you need to go over to Lowe's or Home Depot or Amazon or wherever and buy you one of them Milwaukee grease guns and get under your truck a couple of weeks and grease it. Because greasing is going to save your kingpins. It's going to save your S cams and your slack adjusters and your fifth wheel. On YouTube, does the diesel force cleaning that y'all do qualify a truck for the DPF alternatives warranty that Pittsburgh Power partnered for? No. But if you'll do the diesel force cleaning and then have DPF alternatives clean your filters, then you do get the warranty through DPF alternatives. If you use the max mileage fuel-borne catalyst, you will get a lifetime warranty from DPF alternatives. The diesel force cleaning goes through the engine and removes all the soot deposit and coolant and fuel and all that stuff and burns it off, but it doesn't do anything about ash. So that's why we always recommend come in, do the diesel force cleaning, then we'll pull the filters, send them down to DPF alternatives, have them, first of all, inspect them and make sure that they're not junk, clean them, put them back in the truck. And then if you'll use the catalyst, you only have to do the diesel force cleaning every 250,000, 300,000 miles. Speaking of, what is your thought on max mileage? We run max mileage in every truck 2004 and newer. Delete or keep the DEF system. Keep it. Keep it and maintain it. That's why we say 08 to 15 is a no-go. From 16 and up, these emission systems are manageable if you will keep them clean. Soot is the enemy of these emission systems. Max mileage helps reduce that soot. And so we swear by it. We're partners with Pittsburgh Power, but we were partners, we were customers of Pittsburgh Power long before we were partners. But every truck we run from 2004 and up, so that's EGR, DPF, and SCR, every truck runs max mileage in every tank. Brake check next week. Better warn everyone. Yeah, that's a good point. The second annual truck driver extortion week's about to happen. And folks, brake systems are way too simple. You should never, ever get a brake violation. It's too easy to look at your linings and see if they're cracked and see if they're legal, right? It's too simple. But you're going to have to get your flashlight out. And like Rocky says, brake check is every week. One thing you need to do, and I had a school bus guy teach me this years ago. It only takes 10 to 15 pounds of pressure to bring a fully loaded truck to a stop. Okay. You're just not going to press on that brake pedal very hard unless you're in an emergency situation. But for most applications to bring a truck to a stop, it only takes 10 or 15 PSI on the pedal to get that truck to stop. Well, if you never do your daily air brake check that you're required to do as a part of your pre-trip, if you never do that, you're never putting enough pressure on that brake pedal to get those slack adjusters to adjust. So you need daily to do your air brake check, as is required by law as a part of your pre-trip. And you need to slowly press that brake pedal all the way to the floor and release it. And press it all the way to the floor and release it. and press it all the way to the floor and release it until you have gotten down to 20 and check to make sure that your tractor protection valve works. If you'll do that every day, your brakes will stay in adjustment. And it's very easy at that point to look visually with a flashlight and go, that brake is out of adjustment because the push rod's sticking out too far. You don't even have to get under there with a tape measure. You can visually look and see if your brakes are out of adjustment because one of them will be in and the other one will be out. How do you guys maintain the oil-based levels on the Cascadias on your fleet? I guess the same way we do on the Centuries and Columbias. With oil sampling, we do an oil sample every 25,000 miles, and if the base gets too low, we change the oil. But we don't have like there's nothing really special about the Cascadia that makes it different.
Well, it has a longer factory interval.
Yeah, I think it's 50,000.
Right. It has somewhat of a bypass oil filter system built into it, is why it has a longer change interval.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's true. They don't the newer engines, the X15s, DD15s, Packars, they don't burn oil like the old ones do. That's true. And so you are more likely to see reduced base in newer engines because you're not adding makeup oil. With a Series 60 Detroit, if it's not leaking oil, it's because it don't have any in it, right?
Right.
The old joke is to take a picture of a Detroit diesel, put it on your refrigerator, and when you wake up the next morning, there'll be a puddle of oil on the floor, right? That's something that we were, those of us that started driving before, about 2008, it was nothing to, it was nothing to put a gallon of oil in every week or two. It just older engines burned oil. And of course, back then we were idling a lot more than we are now. And idling is hard on all engines. It's especially hard on emissions engines. And Rocky says, if your base is getting low, add a crushed up Rolaids to your oil. That'll get your base numbers up. He said that a couple weeks ago, and I thought that was complete horseshit, but apparently it's not. But that will add base because that's what happens when you eat a Tums. It's adding base to your belly to help neutralize the acid. What is the added cost of max mileage per mile? Okay. So max mileage, let me think about this, is $230 a gallon, and it will treat 3,200 gallons. So that's 0.07 per gallon. Did I do that right? 230 divided by 32. That's 0.07 per gallon. Then if you get 7 miles per gallon, it's about a penny. It's about a penny a mile. If I did my math right just now. And like anything else, the better your fuel mileage is, the lower all of your costs are. IFTA, fuel taxes. But 1 gallon will treat 3,200 gallons. So you just have to put in 1 ounce for every 25 gallons and you're adding in fuel. Felton J on YouTube says, when you cross over from Ohio to Indiana on I-70, the right lane will undo your alignment and open every closed cabinet within 10 miles. Well, that's a fact.
It used to be I-70 through Ohio and Indiana as well.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't been across there in a while, but
there was a pothole. There was a pothole right on the Indiana-Ohio border on 70. Then I knew exactly where it was. If I didn't avoid it, it would actually knock me out of gear.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
Your tax dollars at work, citizens.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Arkansas was the worst. Back when I first started driving, I mean, you're literally just I mean, just like that across the whole state. Um, and that was, they finally fixed that in the mid 2000s. When is BCO Days? Is that next month? Yes, it's September 18th and 19th in Durant, Oklahoma at the, what's it called? Choctaw?
Choctaw. We will be there. Landstar would not let me rent a table, so we can't be in the trade show, but we will set up our table out in the big room and just be obnoxious as hell. So
Now,
come by and see us.
I got thinking about that because I saw they emailed the itinerary out the other day and they had a list of
Mhm.
all the vendors. I don't see why Blue Ribbon Specialized Truck Services couldn't have
Well,
a booth.
I can tell you why if you want to hear, but Greg Nelson said no, that's why.
Oh, okay.
But he said, I know you can go do your shuck and jive whenever you want to. But he said the only people that can be in that vendor thing are LCAP approved vendors. So if we got to be an
Oh,
LCAP approved vendor, I guess I could fight it again.
oh, okay. 1 gallon of Power Service additive silver. Good. Power Service. We don't have any data on that. We use FPPF, the fuel power water emulsifier, every other tank. Little white bottle. You see, we buy them on Amazon by the case. We have data on that because we stopped having algae when we started using FPPF because it helps get rid of the water that's in the fuel. So the only additives that we use are FPPF and max mileage. Richie was supposed to be doing a test on Flashpoint for us, but
He's
his
probably
data,
vaping it. He's probably
yeah,
vaping it.
he's probably drinking it. That's probably why we haven't gotten any data because he's probably sipping on it. Redshift picked up a gallon of Flashpoint today. Yep, I didn't get to see you. I was busy building shelves. Richard McKinnon says yes, 1 penny or less on max mileage. He tracks his with profit gauges. So, I mean, the best way to, if you find a product, and Lord, there's plenty of them. Richie says he's been enjoying the Flashpoint. Now, are you drinking it or are you putting it in the fuel tank?
I bet he's vaping it.
He's probably vaping it, putting it in his little sissy juice bottle.
Yeah.
He said, "Don't call me out like that." But if you find a product you want to try, the big thing is do a test. Do a 90 days without it, 90 days with it, and see if you notice a difference. The benefit that we have is from all those guys that went to the CMC back in the day. You had a lot of trucks, so you had a lot of data. It wasn't just one truck. You had multiple people testing these different products to see if they worked or not.
Reliable people too, not truck drivers.
Yeah, people that were really serious about consistency and data, and all that stuff. Rocky said Richie's using that Flashpoint as beard oil. Oh gosh.
That's funny right there. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Well, folks, we've just crossed the 2-hour mark, and I've worked like an animal today, and I've got to go put in another 10 or 12 hours tomorrow. So I think this would be a good time to shut her down. Remember that every Thursday night we are going to post our shop video vlog. We posted one last night at 8:00, so go over to the YouTube channel and have a look. Kyle and I are going to do this every week. We're going to have all kinds of good stuff this week because we didn't realize we'd be rehabbing a shop this week. I'm not reading that comment, Richie. That's
Shameless plug. We still do have a couple of available trucks in the
Yep.
program. If you guys are curious as to how this works and you want to come learn how to do this right and be a nerd like we are and be profitable and make the money we're making, come check us out. We can fit you in to our program right now. If you don't own a truck, if you do own a truck, we can work with you in our mentoring program. So either way, we have availability right now. We have capacity
Mhm.
that we don't always have, but we do have right now. So it's a good time. Timing's perfect. www.blueribbonlogistics.com. Um, and there's a place you can click on masterclass, and there's a place you can click for mentoring and business coaching.
And we would
Uh,
we would really love for y'all to read about that masterclass before your interview. It's gonna answer a
yeah,
lot of questions.
you're going to like it better too if you do that.
And a reminder, this is episode 218, which means 217 episodes preceded this one. Y'all ain't got nothing to do but drive and listen. So every episode is listed on all of your favorite podcast apps. They're on YouTube. We do a lot of content on TikTok. So make sure you're clicking that follow button. Make sure you're sharing our content, subscribing on YouTube. But we're going to try to be as good and consistent with this content as we can be to give you all the information that we can give you. So we're going to shut her down now. We will be back with you next Friday with a
Rock,
monthly financial report.
Rocky must be on sauce tonight.
Yeah. He said, I can't read. Is the master class in Braille? Well, listen, as many deaf, dumb, and blind people as are in this industry, we might ought to add that as an option. Oh, sorry about that, Willie. I will get that taken care of as soon as we get done. I was supposed to send Willie an email last night, but I come dragging in the house, and I was absolutely wore out.
Don't let him lie to you, Willie. Don't accept that. Hold him accountable.
Okay. I will send that as soon as we get off of the air, and that's going to happen right now. We'll see y'all next week.
All right, guys, be safe.